I'm Faisal Masud, CEO of Fabric. Today I'm going to talk to you about the importance of hiring and how to do it right. This is Founder Confidential. Fabric is a headless commerce platform. We are an API-first modular commerce platform that enables mid-market and enterprise retailers, brands, and B2B companies to be able to scale their platforms in an omnichannel way. If you're an early stage startup, the single most important thing you need to do is have an incredibly high hiring bar. The biggest mistake a CEO can make is during hiring, because once you've hired, removing individuals is not trivial. That said, coming from Amazon and being a bar raiser at Amazon for many years, one thing we learned was when we hired folks, you always hire based on core competencies. You do not hire based on just domain expertise. Domain expertise expires. Core competencies don't. You also hire on fungibility. Can this individual do more than one thing? Or are they just good at that one thing? A lot of organizations get tied to pedigree, titles, backgrounds, GPAs. I don't really care about any of that stuff. I look for grit, and I look for authentic leadership, and I look for somebody who can be highly strategic, but also be very deep in the weeds. It's a complex thing to ask because a lot of folks who are really good at high-level strategy usually are not that good at deep diving. And those who are good at deep diving can't get out of the details and can't think big. Unfortunately, we don't hire those people who can't do both. Once the candidates have been identified, we only interview based on our values. We have 9 values at Fabric. Core value could be seek to understand, say it like it is, bias for action, insist on the highest standards. We assign those values to interviewers. Feedback has to be collected, documented. No one is allowed to talk about the candidate and what they thought, inclined or not inclined. We never have a neutral vote. It's either hire or no hire. And at the debrief, we have a bar raiser who is the decider of which way we go. The good thing about having a bar raiser is that they're indifferent towards the hire, and they can effectively be the final vote. Attracting talent is not a day one type of exercise. You have to earn the trust of these candidates, and trust can only be earned, not bought. They have to trust you, they have to believe you, they have to believe your vision, and they have to recognize that what you're doing is going to have an impact on what they're thinking to do down the road. I think for Fabric, we've been very successful going from 50 people to 350 people in 1 year, primarily because the folks that we hired came with big networks, but that network is of no use if your character is in question. So it's sort of a force multiplier. You hire good people with a good character, you'll end up with better people with similar characters. Our marketing team's done an incredible job with content and demonstrating how good our talent is today, and also exhibiting our values and those who believe in those. In fact, I've had people ask me when they've interviewed that the only reason they applied was because they read our values on our website. I would say tap your network, be vocal, and content is everything. I would say 1, an individual that's a very good fit for our organization. Are they authentic? Are they honest? Are they actually being as transparent as possible about their skills and themselves and how they behave? But I think more than several things, it's just really, in the end, we look for chemistry as well. Outside of all the domain experience and everything else, is there chemistry in this hire? Do we think they would be a good fit for our company? And all the things you can imagine, data-oriented, can collaborate well, etc. But in the end, it comes down to, you can have all of those things and have no chemistry. I actually have an example. We were hiring a CFO that was very heavy push from our one of our VCs. We interviewed him, had a great background, everything was great, good experience. I just wasn't feeling it. We even made an offer, but I ended up rescinding it because no matter how good you are, if you don't feel a sense of chemistry with the individual, it's not gonna work out long term. We are extremely uneasy with hiring individuals who don't fit the Fabric culture. There's a reason for that. There's immediate organ rejection because if the company employees don't feel comfortable with this individual coming in, we've just made a very bad decision. Not to say we are perfect or we know best. It's more to find that common ground of having individuals who understand our values as they're interviewing with us. But it's a bit of an art and science when it comes to values. And if the values of the individual don't match Fabric's, we typically, no matter how good the talent is, we will not hire that individual. If my team is not inclined towards somebody who I'm inclined towards, I will push a little, and some folks will agree, disagree with this, but ultimately, it has to be the team's decision. Most helpful to me, I mean, the recruiter is very helpful. I think having a clear framework of what the interview cycle will look like and who is responsible for which company value to evaluate, and in the case of hiring product or other folks, having somebody deeply technical go through the details as well. So by the time you get to the debrief, you've got documented interview notes and a point of view from every individual who interviewed. There are times we come into a meeting where everybody's inclined and we leave all uninclined because thematically the candidate may have changed their mind about what they were answering through the interview loops. So, I tell everybody this: retail is detail. In our category, you have to pay attention to these details. I made a couple of mistakes early on, which was providing any C-level titles early on is actually a very bad idea. I would encourage early founders to hire, but hire without C-suite titles. Let them graduate to those titles. Let them prove themselves with those titles versus hiring immediately into that. When we did that, it did not work well. Secondly, if you've got individuals in your network that are interested in your organization, you're just not ready for them, or you can't afford them, or they're not ready for you, we've been extremely successful at bringing on advisors that ultimately become pretty big scale employees and leaders in Fabric. I can name 5 right now that have done that at Fabric. It's a crawl, walk, run process, which is super helpful because sometimes you can churn them out quickly knowing they're not a good culture fit. And last but not least, I would say hire fast and fire fast. If something's not working out, you got to cut the cord pretty early. The implications of making a bad hire in an early stage are quite drastic. Time is money, and you're burning time, you're burning money. We had an individual in the company we had hired early on as a senior product leader. We ended up exiting that individual quickly and later found out that they'd never logged into some of the tools that you need to run product management. So the gut instinct is important. Any procrastination in removing is actually very costly, not just from a sales and engineering perspective, but the damage it does to the organization, because that individual is going to ultimately leave a legacy behind that's not going to be helpful. I would say if you hire somebody early stage that's not working out, I would give it a very clear performance plan and then exit if it's not working. Keep one rule in mind. You never hire for need, you always hire for talent. If you just hire because you absolutely need a person to do a job, you're gonna end up hiring the wrong individual because you're rushing through the process. Or on the other side, you may have lots of time and you say, well, let's interview another 5 candidates. Well, why? What if the first candidate is spectacular? Why would you do that? So I would say you hire for talent and competencies, and if you find that individual, don't waste time. And if you don't find that individual, keep going. Don't hire because, oh, no one can do that job right now. Well, that's okay. You do it. You're the CEO.